Hello, sweet parents. Welcome to the When Our Adult Children Walk Away podcast. My name is Dr. Janet Steinkamp, and during each episode of When Our Adult Children Walk Away, I will provide my professional and personal insights, information and opportunities for your self-reflection and growth, tips and tricks to make every day count, and encouragement to keep moving forward. I'm here to help you dig deep and get down to the root causes so that you can find your way out of the darkness to a positive and lasting relationship. Grab your notebook and a pen, settle into your favorite chair, and let's get to it. In this episode, we are taking another layer of the onion off on the topic of coercive control. On August 24th, I dropped the first episode that started to deal with the topic, and it was called When Communication Becomes a Power Struggle, Power, Influence, Gaslighting, and Coercive Control. Now, this topic is difficult and it's multifaceted, just like coercive control is. So we're going to take this one layer at a time and kind of peel it off layer by layer. And I'd encourage you to listen to all of the episodes, but listen to one and then consider what we're talking about here. So what is coercive control? It's a form of psychological abuse. It's one of the most difficult forms of abuse to prove in court. It is not actually legally defined as abuse in the courts, at least in Minnesota or Utah. It may be something that is formally defined as abuse in the court of law in your state. It's something to dig into if it's something that you're dealing with in your particular circumstances. So coercive control is very difficult because it's persistent. It's a pattern of behaviors that are designed to dominate, manipulate, and essentially isolate another person. Usually it's a partner. The goal of coercive control is to erode somebody's sense of autonomy, their self-worth, and really their ability to act independently, make decisions, have confidence, be able to navigate the world independently. Coercive control is slow, it's subtle, it's quiet. I call it smoke. It's very difficult to get your hands around, and it's very difficult to prove. It doesn't leave any physical evidence. There are no physical bruises. It's the kind of thing that permeates a relationship so slowly, the other person already has hooks into them, so to speak. In the beginning, it may look like your adult child. If there is coercive control involved in your circumstances, it may look like your adult child is just beginning to make some changes. And really, what makes it difficult here is that in every relationship, we begin to make changes. Let's use some easy examples. Maybe they move their choice of music from, let's say, country western to rap. So a pretty significant change in music. Maybe they change their dress from their usual, what you know to be their sort of usual way of dressing and presenting themselves to the world, to something extremely different. Now, people experiment. They begin to listen to different kinds of music. That's great, right? We expand our horizons. We look into other aspects of the world and explore. And that is actually very healthy. The difference is, in coercive control, they leave behind their past identity. They take on the preferences of the new person at the exclusion of their own. Again, it's difficult because when we start to see changes in a person, that's normal, healthy, usual, kind of surprising sometimes, it's the extreme that we begin to look for and notice. I want to make something really clear. People don't get involved with someone who is coercively controlling because they're weak or foolish, because they're unintelligent. Coercive control begins because a person very purposefully grooms and targets someone. People who are coercively controlling tend to be attracted to a person who is in a point in their life where their defenses are low, where they're feeling like they're not strong. Perhaps it's behind or right after the death of a loved one, a divorce or a separation, some kind of traumatic event in their life. people become more vulnerable to a coercively controlling person because their defenses are down, because they are feeling more needy. They want someone to come in, or they're attracted to someone who comes in and takes control, starts making decisions, tells them that they will take care of them, not overtly, but in very subtle ways. And so it looks like to the person who is being targeted and groomed as if it is out of care and compassion and attentiveness. I want to share with you a couple of examples, and you will hear these in other episodes as well, but I think they're really compelling. So this is a quote. He was everything I thought I wanted. Attentive, affectionate, intense. He texted me constantly, wanted to know where I was, who I was talking to. I thought it was romantic. I didn't realize it was surveillance, right? In hindsight, very easy to see. In the beginning, it feels like someone who's just really into you, who really gets you, who really understands your circumstances. Here's another one. This is a quote now from a young man, 29 years old. She listened like no one else ever had. She told me my parents never really understood me. She made me feel chosen, and then, little by little, made me feel like I couldn't survive without her. They sort of plug themselves in, these people using coercive control. They sort of plug themselves into a person's life and fill in the holes and the gaps. So again, when a person is feeling the result of some sort of significant event in their life, loss of a job, maybe it's the completion of a college degree, maybe it's a big change in their life that leaves a person working out who they are again. This coercively controlling person, this abusive person, identifies that and begins to exploit that opportunity. When a partner or a significant other is beginning to isolate your child or someone we love, it can be anyone, but we're talking about estrangement here. So in the context of what I'm saying, our adult child, when someone begins to insert themselves and isolate your child, they are going to start inserting comments and insinuations that your family is toxic, that you as parents are judgmental, that the way you parent undermines their ability to be independent, when in fact what's happening is the isolating person is doing exactly that, but they throw it onto the parents. They're going to say things like, well, it sounds to me like your parents are pretty controlling, right? They start interpreting it. They don't necessarily come out and say, wow, I think your parents are really controlling. They don't own it. They suggest that the other person is saying that. They may say something like, I can't believe they treated you like this and you put up with it for so long. Again, insinuating that your adult child is the one that's making the error, that the adult child has not stood up for themselves. And because our adult child might be in a position where they're feeling like they need to strengthen themselves again, that they've been impacted negatively by some kind of event in their life, they're vulnerable to that. They hear it differently than they might have in a different situation. For the purpose of my work with families, I break coercive control into 7 aspects. The first is social isolation. The second, monitoring and surveillance. 3, degradation and humiliation. 4, control over daily life. 5, gaslighting. 6, threats and intimidation. And 7, rules and punishment. So I offer now an 8-session package specific to coercive control and what we would call a gatekeeper or a cult of one. Each of the first 7 deal with a different aspect of coercion, and the last is to sort of wrap it up and talk about how do we manage this? How do we stay connected and supportive and loving for our adult child? Keep the light on, we call it, keep the light on, and not enrage or empower the coercive person. A parent who is trying to stay connected to their adult child, who's trying to create trust, instill boundaries, respect the adult child is the greatest threat to a coercive partner, because we represent to them everything they're trying to undo for our adult child. So again, 7 aspects of coercive control. These are the aspects that I suggest we need to focus on and look for and recognize as parents of adult children involved with a coercively abusive person. So again, social isolation, monitoring and surveillance, degradation and humiliation, control over daily life, gaslighting, 6 threats and intimidation, and 7 rules and punishments. So I want you to watch for those episodes. I want you to keep an eye out for the following series and break them down by topic. Take each episode, and these are not long episodes, so they're easy to listen to in sound bites. Take each episode, take it in, listen to it, consider, and apply it to your circumstances. Now again, coercive control is very tricky because it looks like, in the beginning, usual behavior. It looks like fairly healthy aspects of a relationship. It's the intensity and the consistency that make it different. Okay, look out for these next episodes. I hope you'll tune into them, and I look forward to having you join me in the future. Thanks so much for listening.